everyone. Welcome to the 4th episode of Metadata, Mo Problems. Today we're going to be talking about Hive and Pig, but before we get into that, just wanted to say, in case you've missed some of my tweeting, Riparian Data now has its first product, release 1.0 out, Project Timberwolf, and what it does is let you pull your email data out of Exchange and dump it into HBase. Right, Nick?
Yep.
Nick is one of the developers behind it. You can thank him. And it's the source code's available on GitHub. You can test it out, submit we're accepting pull requests, right?
Yeah, if you see something you really dislike about it, or you see something you just want to change, just fork it, make a pull request, and we'll take a look at it, and maybe put it back in.
And we're also accepting feature requests and bug fixes
on
our public Jira site, repairingdata.atlassian.net.
I'll put both the link to GitHub and to Jira in the comment section under the video. Great, so Hive and Pig, two ways to do basic analysis on your Hadoop data, right?
Yeah, so basically they both reduce down, it's a good choice of the word, into map-reduce jobs.
One of the similarities.
Pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended, totally intended. What this lets you do is, instead of having to write the map-reduce queries yourself, which would be pretty time intensive, you'd have to make sure you got all of your little variables right. If you screwed something up, you just wasted all your time running these. It's kind of difficult to debug map-reduce jobs in general. It requires a lot more overhead than debugging a regular application. Hive is also nice in that the basic premise of it, besides making these map-reduce jobs for you, is HiveQL, which is a SQL-like language. HiveQL lets you write something that's pretty much like writing regular SQL, so if you already know it, you can just use the Hive variation without having to learn a whole bunch of new stuff and get your map-reduce jobs out and be able to analyze stuff in HDFS. I already knew a little bit of SQL, and it made me, it saved me a lot of time just trying to do some basic analysis stuff. If you don't know it, a lot of analysis programs will interface with Hive. Tableau I personally use, it works pretty well. Some others claim to do it. I haven't verified it myself, so I don't know.
What's like the ideal scenario for using Hive versus using Pig?
A good scenario for using Hive is any place where a regular SQL query would work very well, except you have your data in Hadoop and HDFS because you have so much data, or it's in a format that's bad for regular MySQL, but it's still structured. You can't really use Hive with unstructured data very well without doing a certain amount of cleanup on that data beforehand and putting it into something fairly structured, which is what
Pig's really
good at.
Good at data preparation and cleanup.
So what is Pig is
Pig is a procedural language. Instead of Hive's more declarative language.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of load the data, then filter it how you want, or transform it how you want, is how they would put it, and then you either you could dump it to the screen or store it somewhere like in a data warehouse where Hive would be then useful to query over.
And so it's written in Pig Latin. It's written in
Pig Latin. It can run on a Hadoop cluster, like Nick said. It's just gets broken down into map-reduce jobs, and the whole idea behind that is just that when you have map-reduce jobs, you'd have to write several different map-reduce jobs to kind of get to the granularity of data that you want to do with Pig. Whereas with Pig, you can write like 12 lines and have like a pretty good breakdown of, or pretty good analysis of what you're trying to do, what data you're trying to get out of a large data set. I mean, there is some overlap between the two. Certainly, I think Pig could do what Hive can do. It's just it's better used at that that data preparation where it can really filter down the data that you really want.
So you could kind of use them together. You could use Pig to clean and
Yeah,
And
yeah,
like
you
to
could.
compare?
A pretty good analogy for these is they actually are pretty similar. It's more of the API and UI aspects of them, which is a little different. It's kind of like, is your problem a screw or a nail, and one of them is a hammer and a screwdriver, and you really could get that screw or nail in the wall with either one.
Okay.
One is just slightly more suited than the other.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. It's a good analogy.
Yeah, of the two, Pig is actually a little more powerful.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like a hammer.
Yeah, as long as you're not trying to, take out a screw. But Pig is a lot more extensible than Hive. Is the key part of that. You can write Pig Latin extensions in Python, Java, one other language. I forget which one it is.
Ruby?
Yeah, it might be Ruby. That gives you a lot more power because you can just write arbitrary MapReduce functions that Pig Latin will understand and then translate, and you can simply call them later with Pig Latin. And you basically extended what Pig can do. With HiveQL, you can't easily make extensions like that. Or not yet, anyway. I'm not sure if it's on the roadmap.
Yeah. And with Pig too, you touched on schema with Hive. Pig, you kind of declare your schema at runtime when you're actually transforming the data. Another difference is the accessibility. Hive seems to be more accessible through other services like Thrift and Avro, whereas Pig is, I think they do have some streaming options, but for the most part, you're writing Pig Latin scripts.
Doesn't Pig doesn't have metadata either, right? It doesn't store it. Whereas Hive
No,
does.
it doesn't,
Okay.
because you're defining that schema at runtime,
Okay.
so it kind of goes away when you're done with it.
Yeah, by default, Hive stores all its metadata in a database called Derby.
Mhm.
It actually has some weird issues when you're trying to do multiple connections. We've had situations where I can see a table and another developer can't, and vice versa. And resolving them basically consisted of us bringing everything down and then back up, but we were all SSH'd in as the same user.
That's strange.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
In terms of speed, is there a difference at all?
There shouldn't be much of a difference in speed. As expected, if you're running a Hive query on 50 rows or 50,000 rows, it takes about 30 seconds is what I was getting on a single pseudo-distributed node.
Okay.
A Pig query that's doing about the same amount of things is really just going to become a set of MapReduce jobs
Yeah.
that are going to do about the same stuff. So it should take about the same amount of time. It just might be more difficult or slightly more difficult to write a SQL-like job in Pig than it would be in Hive.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a performance hit though for just using them, as opposed to using just straight MapReduce jobs. But that's it's kind of be expected for the trade-off of
Ease of use.
ease of use. Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely start having your queries run much faster using Pig and Hive, assuming you can get them set up easily.
Okay. Do we have anything else we want to say? We've hit the main bullets, I think. If you're
yeah.
talking to someone who hasn't yet made a decision, you can't offer judgment one way or the other until you know what they're doing, or could you offer
all of these
blanket
things really
recommendations?
depend on the application that you're trying to do. If you're doing something that you could do in theory with MySQL or any sort of SQL querying,
You should
I would
go
definitely
with Hive.
choose Hive.
Okay.
If you're doing something that's going to require lots of filtering and prepping the data, or it's mainly textural based, I would definitely go with Pig.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you in a week or two. Bye.
Bye.
Right.